Life's a journey, take it with your soul. Every trial you face, making you whole. From the highs to the lows, let your story be told. Never give up, let your heart be bold.
All right, ready to dive in. Today we're looking into something a little different. We're talking Iranian legal matters. But here in the US, you might be thinking, what? But stick with us on this one. It's actually more relevant than you think, especially these days. Everything's so global, right?
It really is, and it's fascinating how these two worlds, Iranian law and US law, they collide. We'll be breaking down just how tricky things can get. I mean, even something like owning property in Iran, especially for Iranian Americans, even if it's been years, even decades.
And that's where a firm like Moghni law firm comes in. They're really bridging this gap between these two different systems in a way that honestly few others can. But, and here's where it gets interesting, a lot of the cases they deal with involve things like betrayal and property fraud. And that's really just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, it's a sad truth that a lot of Iranian Americans who need legal help with stuff related to Iran, they end up having to figure it out in a system that's just not set up to help them. And even worse, some people are totally taken advantage of, people who prey on that vulnerability.
The research we've done for this one honestly paints a pretty shocking picture. I mean, just imagine people with zero legal background, like none, setting themselves up as experts. And get this, advertising on Iranian media right here in the US.
It's a worrying trend for sure. This lack of awareness on top of the already complicated US and Iranian legal systems, well, it can lead to some really bad situations, especially with sensitive stuff like owning property or inheritance.
And that is where Moghni law firm really steps in. They've got over 21 years of experience, and they're licensed in both California and Iran. And they're members of both bar associations. So they're not messing around. This is their thing.
Oh, yeah. And the range of services they handle is incredible. Everything from being an expert witness in U.S. courts to helping people with Iranian consular affairs like registering a marriage or divorce overseas. They even do notary services right here in California. It's amazing. It's like a one-stop shop for anyone dealing with this whole complex world of international law.
So let's dive into one issue that highlights this whole complexity. Property fraud. We have this article from Radio Iran KRN 670 AM, and it goes deep on this. And this might hit close to home for some people. Imagine you own some property in Iran, and you trust, a family member or friend to handle the sale.
It's something that really draws on those deep cultural ideas of trust, those family ties. But unfortunately, like this article shows, that trust, it can be totally taken advantage of, and the fallout from that can be really tough.
The stories in here are just devastating. We're talking relatives claiming the government seized the property, or they just vanish with the money, or even make up legal problems to drag things out. It's like a whole playbook of betrayal.
And the impact, it goes so much deeper than just the financial loss. That trust within families, within communities, it gets shattered, and people are left feeling so vulnerable and betrayed.
And here's the really crazy part. The article says that a lot of the time, this stolen property, it's developed into these big money-making projects. So it's not just grabbing some cash. It's about making a profit off of someone else's loss.
And that brings up a really important question. What can victims actually do in these situations? It can feel like an impossible fight, right? Especially with international borders and everything. But there are legal options, things you can do. And that's where a firm like Moghni Law really comes in. They get it. They get both systems, how they work. And they know how to work through these really complicated situations. One of the key things they use is Article 677 of the Iranian Civil Code.
Okay, so there's hope. I mean, it sounds pretty bleak, like international property fraud. What does that article even say?
Well, it basically says if they misuse their power of attorney, they're on the hook for damages. Think about it. You trust someone to handle a property sale, you give them that power, and they totally betray that trust just to line their own pockets. Well, Article 677, it gives you a legal way to hold them accountable.
So even if this happened years ago, even before they came to the U.S., they could still get justice. It's amazing.
Exactly. And the potential for compensation, it can be huge. Property values in Iran, especially in those sought after areas, they've gone through the roof. We're talking potentially millions of dollars in some cases.
It's like a legal plot twist, right?
Yeah.
Something that seemed gone forever, you can actually fight for it. But how does Moghni law actually approach these cases? I mean, getting evidence, building a case.
Yeah.
Across borders like that, it can't be easy.
Yeah, their approach it's really strategic, it's interesting. They use this chess analogy to describe it. They say that even small details, things that seem insignificant, they can actually be turned into these powerful legal arguments if you know how to play them right.
Because they're like, even a tiny detail can be a total game changer if you know how to use it. It's like finding that one move that turns the whole chessboard around. But okay, let's talk results. We can talk strategy all day. But do they actually win these cases?
And that's where the client testimonials come in. And these aren't just like, your basic good job reviews. These are real people sharing their experiences with Moghni Law Firm. Like Mary Mitchell, Farzad Mobin, Akbar Tarani, Megan Naziri.
So it sounds like these testimonials are more than just good job. What are they actually praising?
Well, they highlight Moghni's expertise, his deep knowledge of Iranian law, and how he can explain these complicated legal processes in a way that anyone can understand. They talk about his credibility, his knowledge, his efficiency. It's clear they trust him, and that's huge in these emotionally charged situations.
Absolutely. When you've been betrayed like this, the last thing you need is a lawyer who talks down to you, you know? Or makes you feel lost in all that legal jargon. You need someone who gets it, who understands what you're going through and can guide you through it with empathy and expertise.
And that's exactly what these testimonials point to. They highlight how professional the firm is, how they can navigate these crazy international cases, and their dedication to their clients. It's not just about knowing the law. It's about thinking strategically, being culturally sensitive, and having the guts to fight for their clients' rights.
So as we wrap up this part of our exploration, what are the big takeaways? What makes Moghni Law Firm stand out?
For me, it boils down to three things. Their deep expertise in Iranian law, their wide range of services that cover all aspects of these intricate legal matters, and their real focus on building trust with their clients. They understand that these cases, they're not just about legal issues, they're about people's lives, their families, and their sense of justice.
And we can't forget about how accessible they are. I mean, they specifically say they work with clients no matter where they are. It's huge, right? Especially for Iranians who are spread out all over the U.S. and Canada.
It really does break down those geographical barriers, the kind that often prevent people from getting this specialized kind of legal help. It says a lot about their commitment to this community.
Okay, so as we wrap up our deep dive into Iranian legal matters here in the U.S., let's zoom out a little. Yeah. What can our listeners take away from all of this, even if they're not dealing with Iranian legal issues themselves?
That's a great question. What we've been talking about is bigger than just Iranian law, It shows how these cultural things, these ideas of trust, how they can clash with legal issues, and that creates these unique challenges that need a special kind of expertise to deal with effectively.
It's a good reminder that sometimes, what seems like the obvious solution, like trusting family, it's not always the best way or the safest, especially with something as important as property.
Exactly. And it really highlights how important it is to find qualified legal counsel, especially when you're dealing with stuff across borders. Don't just rely on word of mouth or those flashy ads, Do your homework, find professionals who really understand all the ins and outs.
Because as we've seen, the consequences of not doing that, they can be pretty bad. But there is a silver lining here, even in situations that seem totally hopeless. Like with this international property fraud, there's still a chance for justice.
Absolutely. Moghni Law Firm, their track record shows that with the right strategy, with a deep understanding of the laws, victims can fight back. They can get back what was taken from them.
So anyone listening who might be dealing with these kinds of issues or knows someone who is, just remember, you're not alone. There are resources out there, experts who can help. Moghni Law Firms is one example, but they clearly show that expertise and dedication can really make a difference.
It's a powerful message, Don't let fear or uncertainty stop you. Take action, get some guidance. And remember, justice, even if it takes time, it is still possible.
And on that note, I want to leave you with one last thought. Think back to those cultural nuances we talked about. How do they affect how we see trust, family obligations, even what we think is fair when it comes to legal stuff? It's something to think about, especially as the world gets more and more interconnected, right?
Yeah, it's really fascinating, and it shows just how much we need more understanding and empathy as we deal with these legal issues that cross cultural lines.
Well said. And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into Iranian legal matters here in the U.S. If you want to learn more about Moghni Law Firm or dig deeper into anything we've talked about today, you can find all their contact info and some extra resources on our website. Until next time, stay curious. And remember, knowledge is power.
Never give up, keep your head high through the reach for the sky. Never give up, rise above the pain. With every heartbeat, break every chain. Never give up, always keep in sight the dreams you chase, the battles you fight.